So you're trying to figure out how AI is actually going to impact your career. And you've probably noticed that most of the advice out there is, what's pretty generic. Today, we're going to move way beyond that. We're going to explore a much smarter way to think about the future of your work. Let's get right into it.
And yeah, let's just kick things off by calling it what it is. General AI career advice, it really does suck. You know, it's that classic one-size-fits-all solution for a problem that is incredibly personal, incredibly complex. If you've ever rolled your eyes at the vague, just learn to code or be more creative advice, trust me, you are not alone.
This analogy just hits the nail on the head. It compares all that generic advice to broad-spectrum antibiotics. And think about it. It makes perfect sense, right? They get prescribed for everything, they're kind of helpful but not really targeted, and they can have nasty side effects, like wiping out your confidence or sending you down the wrong career path. We don't need a sledgehammer. We need a scalpel.
So what is that scalpel? What's the better tool? Well, we're going to use this really powerful mental model called the Cynefin framework. And by the way, it's pronounced Cynefin. It's a fantastic way of making sense of different kinds of problems so we can actually respond in the right way.
So here's the big idea, right? Not all problems, and that means not all of your work tasks, are created equal. The framework splits things into 5 different domains. You've got clear, complicated, complex, chaotic, and then right there in the middle, you have confused. Figuring out where your work actually lives is the absolute first step to understanding your real risk from AI.
First up, we've got the clear domain. This is the easy stuff. Cause and effect are obvious to everyone. There are established best practices that just work. The perfect example? Assembling a standard IKEA chair. You've got the manual, you've got the parts, you follow the steps, and you get a chair. It's totally predictable.
All right, moving on to the complicated domain. Now, the rules still exist, but they're not obvious to just anyone. This is where you need an expert. Sticking with our chair analogy, imagine you want to modify it, maybe add armrest from a totally different model. You'd have to analyze things, maybe consult an expert. There is a right answer, but it takes specialized knowledge to find it.
Okay, now we're getting into the really interesting stuff, the complex domain. This is where things get unpredictable. Cause and effect? You'll only figure that out after the fact. There are no right answers waiting to be found. For our IKEA project, this is like taking a random pile of parts and trying to design a completely new, never-before-seen chair. You have to probe, sense, and respond. You have to experiment.
And then you've got pure chaos. This is crisis mode. There's no time to figure out cause and effect because everything is on fire. Imagine your guests are showing up in 15 minutes and all you have is a jumble of broken furniture. Your priority isn't to analyze, it's to act now to create some order. You have to act first, see what happens, and then respond.
And finally, sitting right in the middle of all this is the confused domain. You know that feeling when you first open the box and you just stare at the pile of parts, totally overwhelmed? You don't even know where to begin. That's it. The only goal here is to figure out what kind of problem you're even looking at so you can move into one of the other 4 domains. Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this actually work in the real world? To really get a feel for this, let's run through a super quick quiz.
All right, here's the first one. Imagine your job is designing an auto-scaling strategy for cloud workloads using benchmarking and analysis. So, which domain do you think that lives in?
Bingo! If you are thinking complicated, you hit the nail on the head. See, there are known good practices for this kind of thing, but it takes a real expert to analyze the data and apply them correctly. It's not obvious, but it is knowable.
Okay, let's try round 2. Picture this. An emergency rollback is needed after a production deployment broke user login. What's your call on that one?
Yep, you got it. That is a classic 5-alarm fire chaotic domain situation. The system is down, people can't log in. The only thing that matters is to act decisively right now to restore order. You roll back first. You can figure out why it broke later once the chaos is contained.
So, we've got this cool framework, we know how to use it, but what in the world does this have to do with AI? Well, as it turns out, everything.
This is the big aha moment right here. The more predictable a task is, the more vulnerable it is to AI. It's that simple. Tasks in the clear and complicated domains, you know, the ones that follow rules and patterns, those are prime targets for automation. But the work in the complex and chaotic domains, the stuff that requires human judgment, creativity, and adapting to the unknown, that's where we humans still have the edge.
Okay, so now you can see where you might be vulnerable. But look, this isn't about being scared, it's about being prepared. So let's turn this knowledge into a concrete action plan to make your career more resilient. Here's a 4-step strategy you can literally start today. First, map out your daily work, what tasks are clear, complicated, and so on. Second, look at all those clear, repetitive tasks and find ways to automate or delegate them. Free up your brain power. Third, start paying attention to how your job naturally shifts between these domains. And finally, and this is the absolute key, actively practice and build your skills in the complex domain. We're talking about judgment, strategy, real creativity. That's where you're not just going to survive, you're going to thrive. But I want to leave you with one last thing to chew on. It's a bit of a curveball. We all just assume AI is going to crush those predictable, clear domain tasks, right? But think about it. Today's generative AI is stochastic. That's a fancy word for probabilistic, meaning it's basically guessing. So how can a system that's designed to guess be trusted with deterministic work, tasks where the answer has to be 100% correct every single time? It's something to think about.